I knew that I wanted to come out of this experience somehow stronger and not be sort of defeated by it. I had like this feeling that I had to make this piece. I had to do this project as a way of healing, but also as a way of bringing this history into the present. That somehow, once I get through this process, that I would land somewhere, and then that would be the moment where I go, okay, now what's next?
And now I'm inhaling deep. And now I'm in Pop's den, my old room. It's my room again. Gone are the buttons and books, they're now packed in boxes. And now I'm struggling to look at the videos I pulled out. I just miss him too much.
And now I'm sailing on a boat, through dark, wrinkled waters, looking up at this fuzzy dot in the night sky, which is 200 billion stars and 30 trillion miles away. And now by lamplight and half-light and no light and moon, I continue to look for the signs of wonder amidst the signs of doom. And now I'm looking at a group of people in the room who all have the best intentions in the world.
I grew up around all this rich culture that I was around from my parents, but when you're a kid, you're trying to figure out like, well, what's your thing? Who are you? My dad was a jazz musician, and he was in the avant-garde theater world, in all these different worlds. So I didn't relate to a lot of the mainstream culture that was around in the 80s. And when I first heard hip-hop, I always used to say it was like this mixture of all the things that I love. Like, you had Africa Bambaataa, and you had this real like sci-fi kind of aesthetic that had come from, Parliament Funkadelic and Sun Ra. And then you had the B-boys, and people would call them like Grandmaster. Like you had this sort of kung fu. And it was also countercultural. It was like, graffiti. It was this direct resistance to control. And it was like, yeah, I'm gonna put my piece all over your city. I remember when I first met a kid who could beatbox. And I was like, what is that? But in a way, like, it connected because my dad did his own version of beatboxing, you know what I mean? He made all these crazy sounds, and I'm very clear that beatboxing grew out of hip hop, but it had a synergy to things that felt familiar to me. Being in the hip hop scene, like, really confronted a lot of my realizations about race and about privilege and about culture. And for me, it wasn't about being the cool white kid or being the appropriator. It was trying to figure out, like, what are the creative, subversive possibilities, and like, what do I have to say, and what can I contribute? And that's a contradiction I think that I'll always wrestle with, and I think I should always wrestle with it. When hip-hop is at its best, it is this really beautiful space. It's intergenerational, it's intercultural, it's interdisciplinary, it's funky, it's relevant, it's uplifting, it's political, it's empowering. It's a huge part of my life and who I am as a person and artist, and I think it'll always be. Another thing, I think, the role of the artist sometimes is to illuminate, sometimes is to agitate, to inspire, to instigate. I've tried in this piece to look for some moments where I can hopefully help facilitate a way that we can have a bit of a group experience and collectively recognize what's going on right now. When I was coming up, it was that moment in the 70s where it was a working class Italian neighborhood, and then it was this kind of post-industrial, it was all these factories, and then artists started moving into lofts. And there was jazz happening, there was Keith Haring, there was Basquiat, there was Henry Chalfant, who had his studio on Grand Street, which was my street. It was this really special moment of stuff incubating. But then the cycle happens that all of a sudden the galleries come in, and the businesses come in, and then the landlords come in, and then the property developers come in, and then you have what we have now. I think the Lower East Side was interesting because there were moments in the Lower East Side where the artists who came in, who were a mix of cultures, and there were artists already there, but there were some moments of actual connection between those communities. I think Theater for the New City was a space that always felt that there was this sense of worlds coming together, and like people from the neighborhood, and particularly with the street theater that they would do. And that's something I haven't seen as much in Brooklyn. I see more conflict, I think, between the new generations of folks coming into Brooklyn and the historical communities, I don't see as much solidarity building. My parents had come out of this revolutionary time and really believed that the world was going to fundamentally change. I mean, it did change in a lot of ways and a lot of things progressed, but I don't think they were necessarily prepared for what would happen in America, in New York. But the thing that he instilled in me was resilience and the desire not to let go of a kind of utopian sensibility, that even in the midst of all of the intensity of what goes on in our world and in our country and in our city, that you somehow have to nurture this kind of creative magic that can interrupt that. And so I think that's definitely been, you know, a big part of my life and the things that I've tried to do and how I've tried to find my own road.
You're with me tonight, not standing in the back of the jazz club where I might find you, but you're with me in the space between space and time moving. You're with me in the scream of saxophone. You're with me in the solo. You surround me. I feel like it's the first time taken to the stage. You're home. For 58 years, you're home. And when I speak through this microphone, I am with you.
All right, that of course was just the smallest glimpse of what's in store for you if you come and see it for yourself right here at BRIC House. Now the full performance is going to be seen this Friday and Saturday night, and the art installation, a name that really doesn't do justice to all the different kinds of multimedia involved, is right back here in our gallery through the end of the month. But right now, we're very pleased to welcome back Baba Israel, the hip-hop theater artist whose late father's life and artistry are the subject of The Spinning Wheel. Good to see you again, sir.
Great to see you, man. Definitely.
He's brought a friend with him this time, one of his collaborators, a chief collaborator. He's theater director Leo K. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, lovely to be here.
So we just watched that tremendously moving sort of package, the love story between you and your dad. Some people's scrapbook.
Yeah.
You've got a complete gallery installation as well as the show. So what prompted you to wrestle with all of these things and share so much with us?
I mean, first of all, that piece really affected me. The first time I'm seeing it, it was beautifully done and so powerful. So shout out to Chris. But I think, when my dad passed, it was very sudden, and I was living in England, and, it was a big moment for me, and I found all this stuff that my dad had left behind, and he was a huge inspiration on me as a person, as an artist. But I think what I really felt, there's this Penny Arcade who made a little documentary about my dad. She says, we have to stem the tide of cultural amnesia. And there's a lot of profound and powerful artistic content and stories that just gets lost. It gets thrown away, it gets put in a storage space. It doesn't have a chance to reemerge and inspire new generations of communities and artists. And so on two levels, I wanted to do this piece, as I said in that piece, as a healing, but I also wanted to bring this material out for a new conversation, a new inspiration, and we took that to the maximum.
Yeah. Well, the we in that is Leo, and there's a team of talented people who've been running up and down this building for the last month that I've gotten to see. How do you get in between a man and his dad and his dad's memories and the father's legacy and the public persona? There's like 4 different entities in the mix, and then you come in. What was your role in mediating all of that?
Well, I mean, Baba invited me to do the work 3 years ago and to collaborate, and I think that you invited me in some way because he had seen that I'd done work with autobiography and performance and created a show about my family and my ancestry, and worked with other artists on their ancestry and how you can animate that and bring it to life in a sensitive and holistic way where you take into account the personal, the political, the social context, and really honour that sort of that interaction between the different elements. And so in some way that's how we started. We started with that conversation where Baba offloaded so much information, and I came to New York 3 years ago, and Baba hosted me in this beautiful sort of journey through his father's history and the locations and the friends and interactions, and it's very overwhelming to actually receive all of that information. It's taken us 3 years and included incredible collaborators, Richard Ramchun and Talvin Wilkes and Jaco 440, you know, really as an Anna Smith from my company, Unfinished Business. But it's really taken that 3 years to filter all of this information into something which is cohesive and which does justice to that communication and that conversation.
And it's still evolving.
Yeah.
It's a complete synergistic thing between what you can see here and the performance. So just allow me to be like sexist for 1 second, because I heard something that stuck in my mind about men and women, and your piece reminded me. I've heard it said that women all turn into their mothers, and that's their tragedy. And men never turn into their fathers, and that's their tragedy. So I wondered what the best of your father is that you want to put out into the world and continue and have that legacy live on.
I think my dad was relentlessly optimistic. You know, he in the piece we talk about a time where his theater company was locked up in Brazil, and my mother was in jail, and he was a fugitive and got out and organized to get them out. So even though he had experiences that were traumatic and he saw what can happen when you put yourself out politically, he always kept his sense of humor. Even though he had had experiences in the 60s and 70s where he had been, arrested by police and in, anti-war marches and civil rights, things like that, he still had a way to be able to have conversations with cops. He had friends who were cops, you know what I mean? He really found a way. He was committed to human experience and to humor and to shifting things. I mean, when I was a kid, one time we were in Washington Square Park and these two guys were about to fight. And one guy was a hot dog salesman, the other guy was buying a hot dog. And he saw that what was about to play out. And my dad turned into he said, "Hey, I'm the money fairy, I'm the money fairy." And he gave each one of them $1. They were arguing over $1. Yeah. And he cracked him up. And he used to do things like that. He used to just intervene in everyday life with humor and with this kind of radical spark that he had. And so I think that for me is, in the time that we're living in now, how do we maintain that humor and that strength and that connection to humanity when there's so many things around us that are dehumanizing? So I think that's one of the things I really want to bring out with this piece, and to think about it as an artist and as a father myself with my little one,
Yeah, like we heard last night, the loudest voices in the room are not always the ones that we should be following. True. So just let folks know when they can come out and what they can expect to see. I'm going to cede the last 60 seconds of the show to you. So. Well,
I mean, I'm really excited. We had an incredible opening weekend. I mean, I've gotten some beautiful responses from the audiences, and we have 2 more shows, Friday and Saturday. Yeah. And the other thing, in the spirit of generosity, which is also what my dad believed in, every night there's free events. So this Friday, my band Soul Inscribed is doing a free concert. We've got Brooklyn's own DJ Rabbi Darkside spinning. So that's happening on Friday. On Saturday, then we have the Living Theater, who are the new young members, doing a show at 7, and then we do the theater piece at 8, and then afterwards we're going to have DJ KS360, Quick Step, spinning music, funk, soul, hip-hop, house, Afrobeat. So if you come, you're going to get to see a moving theater piece, and you're going to get to experience music and experience the exhibition. So it's just a lot going on. The exhibition runs. We've selected a new artist to respond to the exhibition as well.
Okay.
So good things happening.
All right. Come to BRIC. Come to the
BRICartsmedia.org.
You can find it. Thank you.
Yeah.